this video lecture we will discuss structure of a PL/SQL block. Now here is a look on the PL/SQL block. We have three sections. The first section is the declare section, which is optional. The second section is the begin section, which is mandatory. Third section is the exception section, which is again optional. Now in the declare section you can declare the variables and initialize them. You can declare cursors, and you can also define your own exceptions which are not available in the built-in exceptions of Oracle. In the begin section you can give your SQL and PL/SQL statements that defines the logic of your procedure or your PL/SQL block. In the third section, exception section, you can define the exception handlers which can handle or which can tell the application to do in case an exception is occurred in the begin section. So let us discuss each section in detail. First is the declare section. Declare section is optional. You can add the following things here, but you have to understand that all these things, all these elements that you define in the declare section are local to the current block. That means when you exit this particular a specific block, all these variables, cursors or user defined exceptions will no longer be available. So you can declare the variables and initialize their values. You can define your cursors, that is the temporary workspaces for storing the data from tables, and you can define your own exceptions. These exceptions are just required by your code, and they are not available in Oracle beforehand. If the PL/SQL block is a procedure or a function, then it can be created with create procedure or create function statement before the declare section. That means if you are going to create a procedure or a function, you have to give the create procedure or create function statement before the declare section. A block created without create procedure or create function statement is called an anonymous block. That means it does not have any name. So it does not have any name, so it is not saved and can be executed only when created. If you have created an anonymous block and you exit from Oracle, then it will not be saved for later use. If you want to use the same block again, then you have to declare it again in that specific session of Oracle. The second section is the begin section. The begin section is mandatory. It is the executable part of PL/SQL block that can use the variables, types and cursors declared in the declare section. So whatever variables you require in the begin section, they must be declared in the declare section before you can use it in in your logic. The begin section is made up of SQL and PL/SQL statements that defines the working logic of a specific PL/SQL block for data manipulation in a database or other tasks that you want your code to do. You can include conditional and looping structures here. You can also use the transaction control language statements to manage the database transactions. The end keyword is compulsory to end a PL/SQL block definition. If you don't give this keyword, then your block will generate errors. The end keyword should always be followed by a semicolon. The last section of a PL/SQL block is the exception section. Exception section is optional. It contains statements to check whether an exception has occurred in the begin section, and it helps you to define what is to be done in case of a specific exception is occurred. It is used to add exception handler code for predefined exceptions, that means Oracle exceptions, or the user defined exceptions that you have already declared in the declare section. The exception section is executed only when an exception occurs in the begin section. If no exception occurs, this section is skipped by PL/SQL processor. This is an example of a PL/SQL block. Here the problem is to divide two numbers and display the result. The problem is very simple. The reason of selecting this simple problem is that you must understand that how the PL/SQL block is written. Now as you can see that the problem is solved in three sections: the declare section, the begin section and the exception section. And as you can see that every statement or every line in this code is terminated by a semicolon. In the declare section we have declared three variables a, b and c, each of number data type, and a and b are assigned values using the colon equal to, that is the assignment operator. In the begin section, the c variable is assigned the value after dividing a with b, and the same value is printed on the screen by using the function dbms output.putLine. In the exception section, the exception 0 divide is checked. This exception occurs when we divide a number by 0. So when keyword checks this condition, and if this is true, then whatever is written after then, that is executed. And here simply we have written that we want to display the message to the user that denominator cannot be 0. And in the last we have given the end keyword terminated with a semicolon. So you can understand that how a PL/SQL block is written with this simple example. We will go on doing better and difficult problems in PL/SQL blocks along with creating procedures and functions. So this is all about PL/SQL block.